Okay, so you mentioned that you want to go through Milgram, right? So that is under obedience. Okay, so let's go through the different keywords in obedience first. Okay, so what is obedience?
Obedience is like when you comply to the order of who you deem to be an authority figure.
Okay, and what okay, so obedience is following orders from a higher authority, yeah? And what is blind obedience?
It's like um is it like when you just do it without, like when you're just like you're not voluntarily doing it, like uh you're like subconsciously doing it, like you're subconsciously just like complying.
Maybe, but I guess you could say that it's obedience without question, yeah? So following
Okay.
orders of an authority figure without question, yeah? So when you think about obedience versus blind obedience, blind is just without question, okay?
Okay.
All right. So Milgram, can you tell me a little bit about it?
I know it's like something to do with like the shock thing, like um he did an experiment to test like obedience. So like um uh I'm not sure.
Okay. So his obedience study, it's conducted by Milgram, right? And
Mhm.
it was what experiment? Where was it held?
uh Yale.
Yeah, okay. I was actually going for in a lab, so it was just
Oh,
a
I'm
lab
sorry.
experiment.
It's
Yeah.
like I
Um,
opened the page and it just said like Yale, so I thought you were
yeah, yeah, yeah.
asking.
Okay, so I'll just give you a bit of a
Mhm.
background. Okay,
Okay.
just quickly. Basically, he wanted to explore whether the aim was to find out whether ordinary people would obey a person in authority even when they are required to injure an innocent person. Okay,
Oh, okay.
so he wanted to see which circumstance people might be induced to act against their conscience by inflicting harm on other people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So before he conducted the experiment, right, what he did was he asked 14 Yale University senior psychology students to predict the outcome. Yeah. And all of the
Mhm.
students asked believed that only a tiny fraction of the participants would be willing to inflict the maximum voltage, which was 450. Yeah.
Mhm.
So most of the people believe that obedience rates would be tiny and most would refuse to go beyond the 300 volt mark when the learner refused to answer. Okay?
Okay.
And they believe that only 3.73 were willing to continue all the way. Okay?
Okay.
So now we'll move on to the procedure. What happened in the procedure? Do you know? Do you remember?
I if I'm not mistaken, like the participant would like there's like this guy in the lab like coat, and he tells the participant to there's like there's another person on the other end, like of there's another person on the other end of like the wall, and the researcher tells the participant that, oh, there's another person here, and if you like pull this, like if you press this button or something, like it will induce like a voltage to them. And basically the researcher will like try and push the participant to like push the button and all. And I think like as like if the participant keeps like refusing, it will get more like not aggressive. The researcher will get more like persistent until the participant like pushes the button.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
that's all I can remember from the
Okay.
novel.
Very good. All right. So okay, so I'm just going to basically summarize the procedure for you, but I think you got like most of the points down already. Yeah, so I'll just like repeat some of the things that you said and also add on to it. Yeah, so basically what happened was he recruited 40 participants for each variation. Okay, so there were
Yeah.
different variations. Each variation had 40 participants. Okay, so different versions of the study created to calculate effects on obedience. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
the participants were told that the study measured how punishment affected learning. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so later we'll just talk about the ethical issues here. But yeah, so there were two experimental confederates. Yeah, so you know what confederates are?
Is it like I'm not sure.
Just people, I
Like
guess.
colleague.
So first is an experimenter
Mm-hmm.
and a 47-year-old man. Yeah, so
Okay.
he was introduced as another volunteer participant. Yeah, that's what the participants were told. Okay,
Okay.
the two participants drew lots to see who would be acting as the teacher or the learner. Okay, however, like in reality, right, this was actually rigged, so the real participants will always be the teacher. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the teacher was required to test the learner on their ability to remember word pairs. And every time they got it wrong, the teacher would be required to administer an electrical shock that increased in strength when as like the more they got it wrong, the more it increased in strength. So it
Mm.
starts at 15 volts and increase in 15 volts increments all the way to 450.
Is
Okay.
that even allowed? Like like to administer a shock like that to someone? Like I feel like someone could like die from that, won't they?
uh I mean, because the person who was getting shocked would always be um the person that is part of the experiment, not the participant.
Mhm. Wait, so were they actually getting shocked or was it just
Yes,
like,
yes, they were getting shocked.
oh,
uh
oh, that's actually scary.
no, no, no. No, sorry, they weren't getting shocked, as in they were perceived to be getting shocked.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah, yeah.
I
Okay.
guess he had to like really act really well. So I mean, I don't really know how to act like I'm getting shocked, but yeah, I mean, maybe he was shocked before. Yeah, but yeah, so in variation of the experiment, because there were a lot of variations, right, the learner who sat in the other room mainly gave mainly incorrect answers and received the shocks until voltage reached 300 volts. Yeah,
Oh,
and
okay.
then
Yeah.
what he would do is because they're acting, right, so he would
Mhm.
pound on the wall and then give no response to the next question. So
Oh,
this would
that's
be repeated at 315 volts, and from this point they would say or do nothing. Yeah, so if the teacher asked to stop or question what was happening, the experimenter had a series of prods, you know, prods like things
mm.
to repeat. So for example, they would say like it is absolutely essential that you continue, or you have no other choice, you must go on, stuff like that. Yeah.
Mm, mm.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, so that was basically the procedure. Okay. The findings, what did they find from his study was basically um you remember like how what they predicted, right, before it started. So the findings
Yeah.
showed that contrary to their expectations, 65% of the participants went up all the way to 450 volts. Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's a lot compared to like what like the students said would happen.
yes,
Like,
and
yeah,
this was despite the shock generator. You know the shock generator, right? Like the thing that
yeah.
shocks the person. It actually said danger severe shock at 420 volts, and like whatever happens at 450 volts. So that was actually labeled on the generator already, but they still went
Mhm.
all the way up. So all the
Mhm.
participants in the study, all of them, yeah, reach at
Mhm.
least 300 volts with only 12.5%, which was 5 people, stopping there
Mhm.
once the learner first objected.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's um quite shocking.
That was a good pun.
Yeah. Yeah, so I did not intend that, but I'm good. Um so the conclusion is basically the study demonstrated how ordinary people are obedient to authority even when requested to behave in an inhumane way. Yeah, so I guess this shows that it's very dangerous when people have power, I guess, right? So it shows us that
Yeah.
it was not evil people that committed atrocities, but just ordinary people who obey orders. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So that means that um that means that many crimes against humanity may be the outcome of situational factors rather than disposi- dispositional factors. Do you know what those
Mm-mm.
are?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically an individual's capacity for making independent decisions is suspended when they find themselves in a subordinate position within a powerful social hierarchy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I were to put it simply, right, it showed that the Nazis weren't really special people. It was just
Mhm.
in all of us to kill another person through blind obedience.
Oh, yeah, I remember like um like even in like history, right? They argue about this also. Like
Yeah.
saying like most of them were just like because of the propaganda, most of them were just blind and kind of just like followed what everybody else was following.
Yeah.
In
Yeah. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, so from this study, right, you can actually look at the factors or affecting obedience. Yeah. So if we are
Mhm.
just going to use this study, we can actually learn a lot from it already because of how many variations that they had. Yeah. So, do you know what factors could affect obedience? So if you want to
Is
split
it
it,
like
you can split it into two. So first you split it into two categories. What are these
oh
categories?
like situational and personal?
Personality.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so what are these two? What do these mean?
Um, I'm not sure.
Okay, so situational,
Mhm.
I think you understand this because we mentioned this previously as well. So situational is
Yeah.
just things like your environment, people around you, who might make you more or less obedient. Yeah. Personality, also kind of in the name, so it says it's basically specific to an individual. Yeah. So things like personality, abilities, education, and feelings. You got that?
Yes.
Okay. So um the variation of Milgram study. We will go through that now, all right? Are you
Mhm.
ready? Do you need time to take down notes?
I think I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay, very good. So, Milgram changed a few situational factors. Yeah, so what he changed were proximity, change of location, and uniform. Okay,
Okay.
so proximity, he told the teacher to force the learner's hand down onto a shock plate when they refused to participate after 150 volts. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
so he found that obedience fell to 30%. So the participant is no longer protected from seeing the consequences of their actions. Okay. Change of location. The experiment was moved to set of rundown offices rather than impressive Yale University. The obedience dropped to 47.5%. So this suggests that status of location affects obedience. Okay. And the uniform, the role of the experimenter was taken over by an ordinary member of the public in everyday clothes rather than a lab coat, and the obedience level dropped to 20%.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah. Okay. And there are two types of personality factors which can influence obedience. Do you know what they are?
Uh, I'm not sure.
Okay, so the two are authoritarian personality and a agentic state.
Okay.
Okay, so authoritarian personality. So you know Adorno.
Uh, I'm not sure.
Okay, so hold on, yeah.
Oh, like, is it the study?
Yes, the study
The last
1950.
one?
The 1950.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I know that one, yeah.
Right. Okay. So, basically, Adorno, it suggests that someone with an authoritarian personality type more likely to obey, right? Because they dislike lower classes, they like being bossed around, have strong ideas of good and evil, and don't like confusion about the rules.
Mm.
Okay. How
Okay.
about agentic state? So, Milgram actually came up with the agency theory. Do you know the agency theory?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so Milgram's agency theory, he suggests that we are more likely to obey orders when we enter something called an agentic state. Okay, so the agentic state. So usually, right, what we would be in would be an autonomous state. So that means we feel that we are responsible for our own actions, have the freedom to choose how we behave. Yeah. However, when we go into the agentic state, we believe we are acting on behalf of an authority figure. So therefore, we are no longer accountable for our own actions.
Okay.
Yeah. So we see the responsibility of our behavior, laying with the authority figure giving us the orders to carry out. Yeah. So the Milgram came up with this agentic state, right? And basically he called the move from autonomous state to agentic state, what he called that was the agentic shift. Yeah. So moving from autonomous to agentic state, he called that the agentic shift. Okay.
Okay.
So he actually argued that we are taught to enter that state as children because we are taught to respect and follow orders from authority figures in society. Yeah. Therefore, it is normal to do this with very, very little thought, and this can actually lead to blind obedience.
Okay.
Okay. Right. So you understand everything that we have talked about?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So I'll give you some time, yeah, to jot down some notes, and then we will continue with the next subtopic. All right.
Okay.
Okay.